Welcome to today's webinar. We hope you're ready to think big with us. My name is Val Riley. I am the head of content marketing at Insightly. And if you have product market fit and your business is growing, you're in the right place. We're going to talk all today about the ways you can set your CRM up today so that when you have 10, 20, 30 times, even 50 times as many customers as you have today in the future, your CRM is a solid foundation you can build on. Let's meet our presenters. I'm delighted to have Melinda Prusher with us today. She is our product marketing director here at Insightly. She's been with us for about 2.5 years, but before that, she was with some amazing logos that you see on this slide, and she has a wealth of information to share with us. We also have Dave Osborne. Dave is the Chief Sales Officer at Insightly, so he's responsible for all the revenue. He's been with us for just over a year. Before that, he was with Qualtrics, and while he was there, they went from 10 million in revenue to over $1 billion. So Dave knows a thing or two about scaling. And we also, later on, are going to meet Lisa Riggs. Lisa is the owner and CEO of her own company, Spirit Socks USA. She's also an Insightly user. So she's going to put some of the tips you hear from Dave and Melinda to the test. Before we got started, we had a quick poll up, and so these are the results of the poll. And Melinda, I'm going to pass it to you, so take it away.
All right. That poll's really interesting. It's almost a nice bell curve in a certain way. So good to see that. Welcome, everyone. Let's get started. So to level set, there are 3 things that we want to talk about during today's webinar. Now, we realize not everyone on this call is an Insightly user, and maybe some people aren't even using a CRM actually. So just know that we're going to use Insightly as our example here, but I know that we'll be really just speaking to CRM in general to give a good sense of what you should be thinking about when you consider moving to a CRM if you're not yet, or even what you should think about if you're considering switching at this point in time. So we'll walk through 5 tips on how to use Insightly to reach your goals. And we'll get Dave's leadership perspective on those tips, and then also a deeper understanding of what Insightly can do for each one of these points that we'll go over today. And then after that, I'll interview Lisa to show you how she's using Insightly to support her business growth. So Dave, let's start by level setting. For sales leaders like you, if your team isn't using the CRM as the central nervous system of your organization, your ability to fully understand your business could be compromised. And so I'd like to start with your perspective on how important it is to align around a single version of the truth.
Yeah, thanks, Melinda. It's incredibly important to rally around a single version of the truth, right? And it starts with agreement at the org level about who your ICP is and what value your company is delivering. Even more important is understanding and optimizing the key milestones along the customer journey, right? Starting from the top of the funnel in marketing, through the sales cycle, through implementation, and then hopefully through ongoing renewal and expansion. Also super important to understand that CRM is not a static tool. It's a living organism that needs to adapt as you change and scale. So you need to be thinking about this, not only during your initial implementation, but on a regular basis as your company's growing. Some of the questions we ask our teams all the time is, especially as we're working cross-functionally with marketing, is how are our prospects finding out about us? Being really deliberate and thoughtful about what are the key touch points and milestones along our customer journey and the corresponding sales process. Also critically important is how are we ensuring that we have really seamless handoffs between sales and delivery to ensure that the customer experience is incredible every single time.
Dave, to build on that point, your CRM is only as good as the data that you capture and manage. So Dave, can you share the primary considerations that people should think about to ensure that their CRM is easy to navigate and manage?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I think it's important that we understand and recognize that most CROs that I know struggle with CRM hygiene, right? I think it's a tale as old as time. So I don't want anyone to feel alone if you're dealing with it and you're struggling through it. Super common. And in many ways, the CRM that you choose to use isn't as relevant to the hygiene as much as driving consistent behaviors and discipline on your team and keeping your CRM data clean. That said, there's a few questions you can ask yourself early in your implementation process about what each team needs to be effective in their roles, right? So really basic things like what constitutes an opportunity in your org. I've had the chance to work for several different organizations, and having that funnel alignment is super critical, right? How do we define an opportunity? What's the right level of information and depth that the team needs to understand the health and qualification of said opportunity? A lot of times sales reps neglect to update CRM because it's too hard, it's too cumbersome, it's too time consuming, right? So being thoughtful about your page layout and design can be a really underrated factor to consider. So making sure that your page layouts are making it easier for sales and other teams to organize information effectively can be a really critical part, along with the corresponding fields. Like, what fields are we going to include in each section of the page to make it easy to navigate? So bottom line, alignment on key definitions and business critical details is super important. And a huge part of this is making CRM hygiene a top-down priority with all the corresponding discipline and accountability to the sales and customer success teams.
I want to show this example from our demo account. We're showing here an opportunity record, and that opportunity record has key details like pipeline stage, forecast close date, opportunity value, probability of winning, all those important details about the organization and the contacts that will help deliver a better picture of what's happening with this opportunity so the team can get on the same page with where this opportunity stands. But know that you have the flexibility to determine objects, fields, and page layouts like Dave was talking about. And Sightly in particular is really well known for customization capabilities and really valued by our customers for that reason. And if you're considering CRMs, make sure you understand the level of customization that CRMs offer and how much it may cost you to customize as well. And what we really wanted to do with this webinar is help people understand and plan for their optimal future state as they grow. So Dave, there's something here that I think is so important, and that is permissions. Not getting this set up properly is problematic. So you really want to start thinking about this right away. And I'd love to get your thoughts and how we think about this at Insightly.
Yeah, I completely agree. Not being thoughtful about administrative permissioning can be a huge mistake, actually. And I've seen this many times where organizations neglect this aspect and they end up paying for it later in a variety of different ways. So you really need to plan for this as soon as possible. So a few different points. I mean, it's all about data integrity and how a commitment to getting it right can influence the entire organization for the better, right? And what I mean by that is you want your team to perform efficiently by having access to the data that corresponds directly to their profile and role so they can perform their job at the highest level possible, right? And so advanced permissions is a really powerful aspect that helps make sure that people have the right information they need at the right time to do their jobs right. It's about eliminating distractions, right? Or potentially seeing detail that's irrelevant to their job. We want to eliminate all of that noise and make them be really, really focused, like I said, so they can perform at their highest levels. You'll also want to consider setting up validation rules to ensure the most critical information is being captured, right? Oftentimes people put a lot of different fields and sometimes things can get lost in the noise. So making sure that you're keeping things simple, but creating those validation rules to make sure that the really, really key stuff is never being missed. Another thing is restricting the right to edit some data. I've seen in some extreme cases that companies will have some individuals go in and manipulate the data to influence business decisions or even hide poor performance, maybe on a personal or team level, which is obviously a really big problem. So want to make sure that you're being thoughtful about how do we prevent those types of behaviors from occurring. So obviously your orgs will not be this large and layered as you start out, but it's super important to be thinking about this as you grow and scale.
Absolutely. So let's kind of dive into more specifics on this point around profiles and roles and permissions, because I think in some ways this can be a little bit confusing. And so we want to dive into this. So there are two key elements that you need to think about with permissions data: profiles and roles. So profiles determine which objects and fields your users can view on the page, and what permissions that users have to create, read, edit, or delete records. And roles determine which records you can see relative to others in an organizational hierarchy. And so to bring this to life, profiles determine what roles can see and do in the CRM. So what you see on the left side of the slide is I'm using 3 profile types that may actually have slightly different page layouts in the CRM. We've got sales, marketing, and delivery. The profile determines the type of information that can be accessed. For example, the sales profile would be set up to interact with leads, opportunities, bookings. And if you were setting up a delivery profile, that user would have access to projects, project status, project dates, project margin, for example. And your marketing role might be able to see what's happening in the delivery environment, but might have read-only access. So they can't accidentally change anything about what delivery needs to know about a project at any given time. What you're doing here is simplifying the work so people aren't searching through the CRM to find the data that's completely relevant to their role, and also securing and protecting your data with need-to-know access, especially targeting access to functionality so you have complete control over any changes. And then roles on the right side. They're focused on hierarchies of information. In this case, we're looking at a sales org with the chief sales officer at the top, who has access to all relevant sales objects across the entire global org. As the hierarchy flows down through levels, the VPs are limited to their own regional view and what's happening beneath them in their org. And beyond that, managers can see their bookings numbers and their individual contributors' numbers, but they can't see up. They can't see the VP numbers, the other regions' numbers, or the entire roll up to the global leaders' numbers. The point is that you have control to make decisions about who can see what data, depending on the requirements for your org. So this is a screenshot showing you how and where to assign a page layout to a profile. And so what you do here is you go into system settings and objects and fields and system settings, and you choose opportunity. And then you click layout assignments because you're picking out layout assignments in the opportunity, and then you edit those assignments. And we've got 2 separate page layouts and 2 separate profiles. And then you assign the layout to the profile of your choice and save it. It's that simple. Dave, let's transition to tip 4. Workflow automation is so important to so many of our customers. It's a key reason why they choose Insightly. And I mean, there are almost infinite use cases. I'd love to hear your leadership perspective on why this is so important to you and any sales leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, if you're not leveraging automated workflows within your CRM, you are not doing it right. You are missing out on a critical force multiplier for your business. And a common misconception is that workflow automation is only important for bigger companies. That's simply not true. It is so relevant for small teams and only gets more important as you grow, right? Because even with smaller teams, balls can get dropped along the way through the customer journey simply because people need to share information across teams quickly or nudge the next person of the process if there's a delay along the way, right? Workflows are so important because they help your teams execute at the highest level possible, while at the same time mitigating and reducing the risk of errors, right? It helps us scale and takes the pressure off the administrative manual work on my specific teams, right? As we set up workflow automations, it makes it easy to set up hundreds, if not thousands of notifications at any time of the day or night, right? Which is the type of communication you want to set and forget, and let the power of CRM, in our case, let the power of Insightly handle that for you, right? Because at the end of the day, I want my team to focus on delivering incredible customer experiences, not working through repetitive manual tasks. And workflow automation makes all the difference here.
Absolutely. So let's look at a use case. So let's say that you want any opportunities that reach at least $10,000 in opportunity value to automatically receive a high priority check mark in the opportunity record so that you can pull lists of high priority accounts and track them more easily. So you've set your strategy and you want to give the process a name. In this case, you're going to name this process opportunity value greater than or equal to 10K, mark that as high priority. Your next step in this process is to identify the criteria in Insightly that will be the inputs to defining the process. So in this example, your criteria are record type. You're going to be changing opportunities. It's going to happen in the opportunity object. The evaluation criteria are bid amount greater than or equal to 10,000. And then the final steps in the process are setting up actions, what's going to actually happen, and the trigger or a timed trigger. So you can set up an immediate trigger or a delayed trigger. In our example, the high priority checkbox will be checked automatically when the trigger happens. Either a record is created and the bid amount is greater than or equal to 10,000 when the opportunity is created, or at some point later in the process when the bid amount hits that mark. This just makes it easier for you to capture the information you need without forcing your team to go through manual steps that take up more time or potentially cause errors. So let's take a look at this example. The workflow automation was what you saw on the previous slide. It was already created in system settings. And then when we perform the action, that is to say we create a new opportunity, we enter the bid amount, we don't have to check the high priority checkbox. It's done on our behalf. And we've got a record of this high priority opportunity and can track it via the reporting. So Dave, let's transition to the final tip. So we live in a data-driven world and leaders want the best tools to help them manage and grow their businesses. How do you think about this from the reporting and dashboards perspective? And what do you hear from customers?
Yeah, we do live in a data-driven world. I mean, we have so much data, right? And when you're growing a business, scaling a business, and looking to make decisions, you can make decisions based on data or opinions, but I'd much rather do it based on data. And when I talk to a lot of small companies, typically they start out by using Excel, right? Or simple tools like that to visualize their data. But they'll quickly outgrow it. They'll find it's not delivering what they need. It's clearly not real time. And again, in today's fast-moving world, if you're reviewing old data that's no longer relevant, you're looking in the rearview mirror. Time has already passed. We need to be more predictable and be able to have a better forecastability about what decisions or things are coming around the bend with regards to our business. It also takes a tremendous amount of time to gather and do a lot of heavy lifting of consolidate it. And a lot of small teams just don't have the bandwidth or headcount to do that well. Along with that, I mean, a common factor that people don't consider is risks, right? It's really easy for data entries to be made when it's done manually. And as you scale, think about like a potentially worst case scenario. If someone who owns an important spreadsheet were to leave the company, right? They're taking all that data with you, which sets the company back in a really, really tough position, right? So, customers find that they're able to spend time trying to align groups to get to a single source of truth, right? Inevitably, different people may be using different processes or systems to develop the lens they're using to define key metrics, KPIs, OKRs, right? And it makes it really difficult to align on a shared vision and grow together as a business, right? That's part of the reason why so often you see conflict between sales and marketing, right? There really shouldn't be multiple versions of the truth, right? So making sure that all teams are singing off the same sheet of music, hypothetically, is super critical to ensuring and creating business harmony.
Absolutely, Dave. And of course, from the marketing perspective, we want to be completely aligned with sales. It's so important to us. And we can do that in a number of ways, including with great reporting and dashboards. So great dashboards empower you to share business performance with anyone in your company at a glance. They should help you understand more about your business, help you get to the right answers faster, and should generate even more thoughtful questions about the directions you can take your business. So Insightly dashboards are incredibly customizable. The dashboards are incredibly simple to create and can show you any parameter about your business as long as you're collecting that data in the CRM. And so I'm sharing here screenshots from a custom sales dashboard with a variety of cards. So we've got sales by product type, sales by rep, high priority opportunities, which is a dashboard I built in about 2 minutes for this webinar, and total pipeline by sales rep. All plan types come with built-in dashboards, and our professional and enterprise plans come with customizable dashboard cards. So you're more than equipped to review your business at a glance and share that information across the company. You can do almost anything with Insightly dashboards, and our customers love the way that they provide a quick view to business performance. Our Help Center also includes additional information about all of these tips that we've talked about today, and is a good resource to learn more about Insightly, whether you're just considering Insightly and would like to learn more, or if you are already using Insightly and would like to learn more about what you can do to maximize the value that Insightly brings to your organization.
All right, Dave, Melinda, great tips. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to introduce our very special guest, Lisa Riggs. As I mentioned earlier, Lisa is the founder and CEO of Spirit Socks USA. It's a certified women's business enterprise, and she also is very proud of her Better Business Bureau rating, A+. Nice work, Lisa. It's super important for Lisa to give back to her community, so she donates 5% of company profits to providing socks to the homeless in the US. Great story already, Lisa, and we can't wait to hear more about you and Insightly. So let's take a listen to Lisa.
Hey, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. I'd love to get your thoughts about the conversation that Dave and I had. Did anything in particular not ring true to you? And did anything in particular resonate?
I really like the workflow piece. That workflow automation is just critical to removing those manual tasks for us, so things just happen automatically. I think it can just increase the speed of scaling a business, growing a business, increase the speed of sales by everybody being, united on that workflow and working together. And again, like Dave mentioned, if somebody leaves or if somebody's sick or, emergencies happen, they take that data with them, but that workflow automation it prevents that from happening. So I thought that was a really key piece.
Wonderful. Well, you've been an Insightly customer for a long time. I mean, close to the time when Anthony Smith, our CEO, actually started the company. So talk first about your decision to choose Insightly.
Yeah, actually, it was, I was a startup as well. And I was really just looking for a CRM that was A, affordable, but B, mostly customizable. That's really, I knew I was going to grow my business and I was looking for a CRM that I could customize for myself. And then one that wasn't extremely complicated, right? And so I really liked Insightly for that. As well as the fact that Insightly was a startup, and then Insightly was in San Francisco. I was in San Jose. I loved supporting local, and just the customization that they offer, or that you offer with images, and all of those things were it was a key piece.
Excellent. And when you and I first spoke, you mentioned that people think that it's possible to manage their business on spreadsheets, but that really isn't true. And I'd love for you to dive deeper into that point in particular.
Yeah, I thought Dave covered it well. I know, I've met a lot of startups along the way, and I do know a lot of people think that Excel is a great way to do it because you can use Google Sheets, right? So team members can see it, but the detail isn't there. The workflow, the pipeline, the images are just not there. I use tasks quite a bit in Insightly for my sales follow-ups. That's not on an Excel spreadsheet. And the main piece too is just getting it out of your email and getting this into something that's organized. And so I highly recommend, CRMs. I just think it prevents your business from growing if you stick to that Excel. There's just no way to track. And the nice thing about Insightly is you can upload the Excel spreadsheet straight into it. So it's boom, it's done, which I use all the time when I go to conferences and come back with, large numbers of leads. You just upload that straight into the leads portal and it's all there for you in an instant.
Wonderful. When we spoke before too, you mentioned that you actually have other CRMs approaching you to see if you might switch from Insightly, including some of the big legacy companies out there. I'd love for you to share more about what Insightly does for your company that others do not.
Yeah. So what my company does is we customize socks uniquely for each customer. And so we obviously present more than one design. We always have multiple designs. And so it's critical for me when they turn into a sale and I put them in projects that I not only record the data about their sale, but I upload the image of their sock design, because when they come back for a reorder, I want to know which one they ordered, and I can go back. It just helps me have a full amount of data. And so it was actually Salesforce that was approaching me, and they have a great system, but we got to that point. I said, having this image is critical to me. And they said, we can't do that. You need to stay with Insightly. And they haven't called me since. So it was convincing.
Good to know. We also talked about tracking lead sources, and I'd love to have you speak to your process for that, because I know this can be somewhat complex.
Yeah, we have, as most businesses do, right? The leads are coming in from quite a few different areas. And so I work all the time to customize that lead source. It's just that pull down box, and add the different things. And with every new opportunity or every new lead that comes in, we categorize it for where it came from. It will allow us to analyze our marketing budget. It will allow us to know which leads are converting, right? There's so many things that we can do with that. So that's a really key piece for me of, understanding not only, conversions to sales, but my marketing budget.
So finally, I'd like to have you talk about time savings and efficiency.
Yeah, one of the things Insightly offers my team is just communication, right? We use pipelines to track things along the way. You showed some pipelines in the slides, and that way everybody knows at any point in time where that lead opportunity project is in the process, without having to talk to each other, without having to send an email or talk on Slack. And that's a real time saver for us. It also helps if somebody takes a vacation or leaves the company, for us to pick up right where that was. And the customer has no idea. The customer is not affected, because on our end, we've got it really handled. And so it's key to be able to speak across, or to be able to have all employees, look at that pipeline, instantly know, and then do their job.
Absolutely. I think if I remember right, you also mentioned something about, tasks being really important to you, and following up on tasks, setting reminders with tasks if you need to order or reorder something. And it really helps you from a process and organization standpoint too, which I think is really good and really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the key piece for me in sales are those tasks. Every single opportunity has a task assigned to it, and as soon as I complete that task, we assign another task, because until we convert that sale, and it's critical. The other thing that's so important with the leads and the opportunities, like I said, is just getting them out of your email, out of your inbox, right? Being able to put them in the CRM, and then create that pipeline, that workflow for that. Because I don't know, I'm sure other people out there can relate, but my inbox gets full pretty quickly, and you lose things,
Yeah.
right? They get buried. And if you have a CRM, it's all right there. And so it's just critical to get it out of your inbox into the CRM. And then you can create tasks to follow up. You can create those pipelines. You can really maximize this opportunity that's come to your inbox.
Wonderful. Well, Lisa, it's been so great to hear from you how Insightly has helped you create more velocity through your process, and even understand the key drivers that are helping you sell more, so you can analyze your business and grow and deliver great experiences. Anything else that you'd like to share about the value of Insightly to your business before we close out?
The one thing I would advise for all Insightly users is it's very customizable. And so customize it to how it's going to be most productive and effective for you. It doesn't take long to do, and it can really increase your efficiency.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Guys, that was amazing. Appreciate it. I understand we have a ton of Insightly customers on the call, which is fantastic. But if you're not a current user, or you're new to CRM, or CRM is in your future, we would really like to talk to you. Insightly CRM is super easy to adopt, very customizable, integrates with everything you're already using. We hear from customers that they're up and running with Insightly in just weeks, and growing revenue up to 300% in less than a year. One of the aspects of Insightly that it's a true platform. In my previous role, I've only been with Insightly for under a year, but we were using Salesforce and Pardot, and it was really like a wall between marketing and sales. And Insightly Marketing is a full-featured marketing automation platform built for marketers in the same platform as the CRM. Plus, there's Insightly Service, a customer service ticketing system that we ourselves use to support thousands of customers. So as your business is growing, because we know everybody on this call is thinking big, plan for the future and choose a CRM that can grow with you, that is truly a platform that offers additional features for all your teams to align them and make sure everyone's moving in the right direction. All right, those questions have started rolling in. So I am going to start lobbing them at you guys if you're ready. This first one looks like it might be for Dave. Dave, at Insightly, who is in charge of actively managing the CRM updates, rules, and data hygiene? Because as we've learned, that's a big job.
Yeah, at Insightly, it's owned by our sales operations team, which is pretty unique, right? I mean, we've mentioned a few different other competitors, and oftentimes, CRM is so heavy that it requires like a team of administrators to actually make it work. So I think that's another kind of interesting fact about our business and most of the customers that I speak with is it's a shared responsibility, that someone in the operations side of the house will typically take in addition to many of their other roles. So it is customizable, but it's easy enough to make adjustments on the fly. So for Insightly, it's sales operations that owns it and helps kind of proliferate that across the different org.
So I've got another one here, might be for Dave as well. How do I know, how big do I have to get? I guess, how do I know when I need to hire a full-time CRM admin?
Well, I mean, kind of to that last point, you may not actually get there. I do think, because I mean, at Insightly, we have a few hundred employees and we still don't have a full dedicated admin, right? So I think it'll depend on the CRM you choose, right? Because some of them do require very specific skill sets to operate and manage. But at Insightly, one of the differentiators for us is kind of our modern approach and how we enable organizations to not require those admins. I would say this though, Val, I think a critical thing though is defining who owns it, right? Who is the person that is owning it? Because if you have multiple admins, so for example, if we have a marketing admin and a CS admin and a sales admin that is making adjustments to fields and objects on an ongoing basis, you may inadvertently create issues for yourself, right? You may create workflows that contradict each other and start breaking things. So I do think it is important to have, call it a task force or just a group of individuals that is responsible for owning this, so that as we're trying to make changes to help grow and scale the business, that we're being thoughtful about the needs and also integrations that other departments may be leveraging so that we don't have any interruptions along the way.
Thanks, Dave. Speaking of integrations, we got a great question from Robin about integration with Google Workspace, Gmail. Robin, you'll be happy to hear Insightly was born in the Google world. So we'll get someone to respond specifically to your question. It's a great one and we have a great answer. Dave, it also looks like I skipped one. What other types of information should you consider when thinking about CRM hygiene? I think that was a follow-up to the first question.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like those are just little details that you often don't think about, that as as the business runs, things start breaking down. So yeah, I think there are little tips like that. So for example, for states, when you're putting that into a CRM field, is it going to be abbreviated? Is it going to be the full name? Right? Are you going to be okay with all caps or, no caps, or do you want to have that uniform? Lisa brought up the example of going to conferences and uploading lists of leads that you got. And this is where I see this breaking the most, is where you're uploading that CSV or Excel spreadsheet into the CRM and, the formatting is off, which is, aside from the aesthetic problems, could also create some downstream issues as well. So I think, when I talk about discipline, accountability, that those are behavioral things that leaders can, from a top-down perspective, we have reports to help drive compliance and hygiene, right? Making sure fields are updated on a timely basis and we have the most up-to-date things there. But there's also some consistency factors that you should consider so that, things don't start breaking. you're trying to do your job right, you're uploading things, but sometimes those things can have unintended consequences downstream, right? I mean, Lisa, I mean, I'd love to hear your thought on that. I mean, I'm sure you're experiencing that as well, right? In terms of when you do these things and you're like, oh, wait, I maybe missed something here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you spoke to almost everything. That's just funny how the little details that you don't think about can come back and get you. But it's easy to fix, and it's something I think too, to if you're thinking about it going in, I think you're just much less likely to have those going forward. So it's great that this conversation is being had. And you're right, like just the states, the all caps is one that bugs me. No all caps, like it needs to be appropriate. And some things do come in that way. And so how do you fix it? How do you move going forward?
We might all have to change our ways, because Gen Z, like, they don't use capitalization at all when they text. So I can't imagine once they start getting into the CRM what that's going to look like. But anyway, Melinda, this one might be for you. If you had to sum up a main thing when choosing and implementing a CRM, what would your advice be? Like one tip, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the main thing that you really have to consider is just keep it simple. And so we've talked a lot about building for the future. But what I also want to say about that is that it doesn't have to mean using a lot of complexity or spending, a tremendous amount of money. And when you look at CRM options that are currently available, you might be kind of tempted to invest in something that is more complex than you need, thinking, well, I need this to grow for the future. But just be careful. Remember that the best CRM is the one that perfectly fits your needs. And don't go out of the way for a CRM that has features that you won't use. Choose something that's effective, customizable, can grow with you without being unnecessarily complicated and expensive. And this will really help ensure that your team adopts the CRM effectively. And also, I think, stay flexible. The effectiveness of the way your team is working with the CRM is really your best indicator of whether the CRM is performing to expectations. And if it's not, how it could be improved. This technology exists to help you make the most out of your customer relationships. But if you fail to use it correctly, if it's too complex, if it's too hard to adopt, then those relationships that you're trying to build with your customers aren't going to translate into better customer experiences.
Can I speak to one thing as a customer as well? I've been a customer of Insightly for 5 or 6 years at this point, and Insightly continues to add new features, continues to grow with the industry. And so I certainly haven't felt like things weren't there that others had, because as Insightly grows, those features are coming. And what I found as well is the company is very open to suggestions to, hey, when is this coming? When is this coming? And every time I've asked, there's been something in the works, and, it's been there in 6 to 12 months. So as a customer, I can attest to, if it's not that what you're looking for isn't there now, ask them, see if it's there, and then be confident that they're growing and adding more features every day, I think.
Val, can I throw one last thing into the ring? This is such a great question, right? I think a couple different thoughts. Like, to me, when I think about CRM, right, it's not a new technology, right? I mean, this has been around for a long time, right? It started like back in the 80s when we just had Rolodexes on our desk, right? And then we had Siebel come along, or we had contact management system put in your computer, Siebel put it on-prem, right? And then, 30 years ago, Salesforce came along and put it into the cloud. And that's kind of where we've been for the past 30 years, right? But what's the reality of that state? Well, you've almost got like a dichotomy, right? On one end of the spectrum, you have these kind of easy to use systems that you outgrow really quickly, right? They don't have the features, the functionality, the administrative permissions, the security. Someone asked about security, reporting, and you have to move on to something more robust, right? At the other end of the spectrum, you have the more enterprise players, right? But they're going to be really expensive. They're going to be heavy. They're going to take 6 to 12 months to implement. And then, as we talked about before, you're likely going to need a team of administrators to even make it go. So I think one thing that, again, I speak with hundreds of companies a quarter, that most don't think about, that I think is super important to think about, is what is the total cost of ownership to bring on a system like this, right? Because you have the technology costs, which are explicit, usually you're going to see in a proposal. But what are the other soft costs or downstream costs that you're going to have to incur, right? One being implementation, right? How long is that going to take to get off the ground? what's the ongoing administrative requirements, right? I think oftentimes when you think about CRM, the price you see in a proposal is often just the tip of the iceberg, and then there's a whole lot of other expenses underneath the water that you don't see coming. So be thoughtful about that, right? If the vendor is not disclosing or talking through that, I've seen it way too many times. Prospective customers are shocked at how much they end up spending per year on something like CRM. So I don't know, just my 2 cents.
Great tip, Dave. Thank you. Lisa, Melinda, Dave, thank you so much. This was a wonderful webinar. I had a lot of takeaways. I'm sure our audience did too. And thanks everybody for joining us.